So Booktok has been around for about 4 years now, and in that time, it has managed to completely transform the publishing industry. And I thought, since there has been many a popular book on Booktok, I wondered what would happen if I decided to reread / read for the first time, because I haven't actually read a lot of these Booktok books, and see whether they still hold up 4 years later. In this video, I plan to revisit On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and Normal People, as well as reading They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera for the first time. Without further ado, let's get to some reading. It's been a while since I filmed one of these intros. I totally forgot all about this book because I read this at the start of 2022, which was the worst year of my life, and I think I gave it a 3 at the time, but I recognised that I definitely did not read it at the right time. So ever since I have wanted to reread it, and you know what? I really fancy some beautiful writing. So I'm going to read it and I'm going to see whether my opinions have changed or whether I was right all along and this just is a 3-star book. I want to be surprised. I'm about 60 pages in so far. This is how the tabbing's going. It's certainly going better than it did the first time, I think. But it's not like an all-time favourite story. It's just really well written, and I am really enjoying it, but I don't see it getting like a full 5. But I really need this to get a 4. That's a win that I just need right now. Hello. Excuse my appearance, I did something to my hair. I got it cut like a month ago and I already feel like it needs to be cut again. Please ignore that. Also, the lighting is going to be questionable. I will play the I Live in Britain card, and our houses just aren't designed for good lighting. Especially this one. I mean, the Victorians weren't interested in good lighting for a YouTube video. Before I go off on a major tangent, let's talk about this book. I'm very happy to report that this was not a 3-star, nor was it a 2-star, nor was it a 1-star. It was a 4-star. I'm happy about that. I didn't particularly connect with it as a story, but as a writing, as a book in terms of craft, I loved it. I don't think it deserves anything less than a 4, so that is what I'm going to give it. It is about this character called Little Dog, and he is writing letters to his mother, who can't read English. It talks a lot about being an immigrant because both this character and the author are of Vietnamese origin. So it talks a lot about the Vietnam War. We get kind of anecdotes from this character's family in the past. It does feel like quite a generational story in some aspects. I did think it was quite interesting. There were parts that kind of lost me a little bit, but then I was fairly quickly brought back because this is quite a short book. It's only 240-ish pages. Although the writing can be a little bit dense because it is so flowery and it does make you think, the way it's told does make for quite a quick reading experience. I did read this, I think, maybe in a day or 2. So I really wasn't sure how this was going to go. It probably did help that I spent 6 hours on a train at one point. There and back. It wasn't just one continuous train journey. I don't know if I would have lasted. Yeah, it was good. It was a 4-star. I'm happy about it. Hello. I finished this. I've literally just forgotten everything I was about to say. This book, for those who don't know, is about a girl called Addie, and she's living in 1700s France, and she makes a deal with this devil character to essentially get out of this life that she does not want. And instead of being fully free to do what she wants, there's a caveat because everyone that she will ever meet will forget her. Although, in present day when she goes into this bookshop in New York City, she meets this guy who, for some reason, remembers her. I wasn't unsure what I was going to think about this book rereading it because I read this 4 years ago, and my reading taste was quite different back then because I didn't think I liked fantasy. I mean, that's shocking to me now, considering I read a lot of fantasy. books, like nowadays. And it's shocking to me that there was a version of myself that didn't like that, or at least thought I didn't like that, until I read this book and it kind of changed the game for me. And this book isn't even that fantastical, there's just like a slight element to that. I think my biggest, I don't know what I'm gonna think about it, is the fact that I didn't find this book to be that memorable. And for a book about memory, this book not being that memorable is quite ironic to me. I don't know if it's worth like the full 5 stars again, like I don't know whether like it deserves that kind of rating. But it's certainly like a 4.75, it's very close. I don't know if this is going to be the strongest book in my mind in like however long. Like I don't know if under the weight of all the books that I will read in my life, this will be strong enough to transcend time. For what it is, like it's very good, and I will probably always remember this book fondly for what it did for my reading taste, but also like it's just a very good book. It's very meaningful in what it says about memory and what it means for a life to be fulfilling and enjoyable. There are a lot of relatable moments, and the writing is spectacular. I kind of wish I had just read this with my eyes, because I know I would have been annotating things like crazy. The word choice that V. Schwab uses is just like perfect every time. I was reading this back and I was thinking like, this is really, really well written. I'm sure I found it to be well written the first time I read it, but the second time, like even more so. You know a book is good when you are looking up books that are like it, because you just want something that feels like it again. Okay, yeah, there were a couple of times where I was thinking, like, are we gonna speed it up a little bit? Because it is very slow. It's very much like we're following her over these 300 years. We have like different snippets, different scenes throughout different times and places. So it's very much like a character historical type book rather than the fantastical one, but obviously like with the kind of supernatural elements, there is a fantastical element. But I wasn't getting annoyed at that. I was more just like curious as to when's it gonna wrap up. You know? I think this would make an incredible adaptation. I really hope that it does get adapted into a film, because I think it would work really well. This was just like a gorgeous and beautiful and meaningful story, and for the moment I think I'm going to think about it quite a bit, because there are various scenes in this that are heartbreaking, that are just unforgettable for the time being at least. This was good, this holds up. I recommend, highly. Excuse the hair, I kind of look like Boris Johnson. Yes, I know I need to get it cut. Yes, I know I look really shaggy, but can I really be bothered to spend loads of money getting my hair cut? Not really, I'd rather spend it on books, you know I would. Why am I so hot? It hasn't even reached like heatwave territory yet. I'm already sick of summer. There was a wasp in my house. No thanks, like, can we have autumn again? Or like cold spring, because heat really just makes me angry. What was I gonna say? I'm probably gonna read Normal People next, because I'm really just on the search for meaningful books about human connection, and I think that now I'm a bit older and a bit more versed? Is that a word? I've read more literary fiction books, and I think that when I read this the first time, the reason it didn't work was because I was not in that era. I was trying to eat a mango before it was ripe. Essentially. I feel like I'm losing the plot. My brain's not working. What's going on? Well, I'm a barefaced liar, because I did not read Normal People next. I listened to the audiobook of They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera, and I didn't really like it. The premise is very interesting, so I'll give the man props for that. We're set in this kind of like slightly futuristic, or just like a parallel world, where they have the technology to predict when somebody's going to die, and they do this in the form of a call on somebody's like last day, and we follow these 2 teenagers that get this call, and through this app they have managed to like meet up, and they're just spending time together on their last day on Earth. I just kind of feel like the main problem with this is that I didn't really like the perspective of the story we got. As someone who really likes spy films and the whole secret agency infiltration plot lines, I would have much rather we spent more time in this organization, because I think that was very interesting. Like, how do they know when people are going to die? How are they doing that? No explanation. I still don't know how they've got this technology. I will question things, that's just who I am. I get that that wasn't the point of this book. This is heavily like character focused, but we've also got themes of like what it means to live a fulfilling life and regrets and all of that sort of thing. I mean, it was making me think, what would I do if I got told it was my last day on Earth? What would I actually do? Because so many things would just be left completely unfinished and there's nothing you can do about that. I didn't really care for any of the characters, so that was probably like a big thing as well that stopped me really connecting to the story. Can I really tell you a discernible thing about these people apart from like they've had pretty traumatic lives? No, I can't. I also just, the dialogue felt really stilted. When I was listening to it, I just think like, oh yeah, just like something about it just didn't work. I don't really know how to describe it, but you know when dialogue just feels like it's written for the sake of like writing dialogue and it doesn't feel like authentic or anything of the sort. That was this book. This is now my second book that I've read by Anne Silvera, and it will probably be my last because I just don't think his writing is necessarily something that is for me. He writes a lot of emotional stories, and I think like if you're going to do that, I need to connect to it, and I haven't in both of the books I've read from him, so I don't think I'll be reading any more unless the premise like really grabs me. I'm probably gonna give this a 2.5. It wasn't terrible, it just wasn't anything incredible. That is an issue I have a lot with Booktok books. Sometimes I get it, but most of the time I just sort of think it's a book that exists. I think we'll leave it at that because I have nothing more to say.
And what's the price you'll pay for you to be famous? It's not a lot these days, and so
I don't know about this book. It's written in such a detached way, and I've kind of gotten used to that with Sally Rooney's books. A lot of them do feel very sort of detached, but I kind of feel like it only works when it's told from a first person perspective, because then you like properly get to know the characters rather than just like hearing little snippets about them. I don't know what it was with Conversations with Friends that I connected to so much. I just think it was like all of the right things at the right time. I think I read it at the time I was meant to read it in my life because I could relate a lot to the main character. Whereas this, I'm sort of getting it. Like there's a couple of times where the quotes have just aligned, but for the most part I'm just sort of reading it and it feels sort of fine. Like I kind of get it, but at the same time I wouldn't say that I really understand. I don't think it's that I don't understand, it's more that I'm not having the reaction to it that lots of other people have, where they really connect to the characters and to the story. It's just sort of something that exists. I don't feel anything for it. So, I don't know. I think my rating's probably going to stay the same, to be honest. I love books. Well, I didn't love this one. Maybe I'm just being bitter because I really expected it to be it this time and it just wasn't. I don't know. I found myself very much starting to agree with the main criticisms that people have for Sally Rooney's writing. It was very simple and didn't seem to have very much weight behind it. I mean, there were a few things I liked because I tabbed some stuff. That's why you tab things. Sure, I mean, it was okay to get through. I didn't find myself hating the reading experience. It read fairly fast, aside from like the last 100 pages where I really just kind of wanted it to be over. This book felt utterly unambitious and inoffensive, and I'm not talking about her lack of quotation marks. That always seems to be the first thing that people say when they talk about Sally Rooney's books.
and honestly, it kind of feels like a non-issue to me. I'm just gonna say it. Now, I suppose there are some quite mature themes and depictions of certain topics in this book. I have seen some reviews where they don't think that that was portrayed well, and like, I kind of agree, but it's done in such a sort of basic way that I just feel like so many other books out there are going to do it better, more nuanced, etc. In this book, it just kind of happens. I mean, that is kind of Sally Rooney's books. They do often feel very detached. But something about that just didn't work with the story. I don't know what it was. There's obviously something in this book that grabs people, that people find to be really inspirational and incredible and meaningful. But honestly, I don't think this book is that profound. I really don't. It just sort of feels there, and it's quite hard to explain what I actually mean by that. It kind of felt like I was just reading the words, like I was Sally Rooney's proofreader or something, without having to actually look for grammatical or punctuation errors. I could sort of picture it, but I was just picturing the actors that play these characters in the TV series in my head. And I've never even seen this TV series. I don't know whether it's better than this book. Who knows? I mean, if you've seen it, let me know. I did not feel like I really knew Marianne and Connell to the extent that I feel like I know Frances in Conversations with Friends. I feel like she was getting there, but she never fully realised her potential. And one of the things I really like about Sally Rooney books is their character work. This one, I just did not. I know that's a controversial take. And how interesting is it that I think that this is her worst book, and it's her most popular one? Apparently I love being a contradiction. I don't know whether to lower my rating slightly to 2.75, or whether I'm just salty that this wasn't better the second time around. I think I'll keep it at a 3. It wasn't terrible. I liked it quite a bit more than I liked They Both Die at the End, but I'm still kind of disappointed. Considering A, I like both of her other books, and B, I thought this would be something. And it wasn't.
And that is the end of this video. So, what did we read? We read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which thankfully held up. I really wasn't sure what I was actually going to get out of this book. It was just as good the second time. Loved it. I want more books like this, so if you have any recommendations, please leave them down below. I read They Both Die at the End by Anna Silvera, and I didn't like it, although to be honest, if I had read this in 2021, whenever it was popular, I think I would have liked it more because I knew less about what the story was going to be. But I just don't think this author's writing is up my alley. I don't think I connect with the way that he tells stories, and that's okay. Then I read Normal People, and it was a 3. I don't get the impact of this story. I get it on paper, but in practice, it really just isn't an impactful book like her other 2 are. I really don't get why this is her most popular one, because Conversations with Friends is right there. And then finally, in my chronology, but I don't think this is how you've watched this, I read On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, and this was better. So that is a win. That is a good way to conclude this video, even though I don't think that's how you watched it. Thank you very much for making it to the end, if you have actually legitimately made it to the end and not just skipped. Thank you very much for being here. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Let me know what you are currently reading, or if there's any standout books that you've read recently, because it has been a while since I have posted. Otherwise, I'm gonna let you get on with the rest of your day now. Could be night, I suppose. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, even if it's night. I mean, night is part of the day, kind of. See you next time. Goodbye.